to talk today about a pretty difficult topic, and it's the topic of hatred that comes along when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. And I want to discuss this relative to both sides of the equation. The narcissist is somebody who has lots of hate and bitterness and contempt toward you and many other individuals, and then you can feel the same kind of feelings in reverse toward them. Now, through the years, I've heard many stories about how that narcissistic individual has indeed created a great deal of turmoil and strain, and it's not an imagination. For example, let's say you have a parent who's been alienated from their children because the other parent has trained the children to reject you and show disdain toward you, parental alienation. I think that's one of the most selfish things that a person can do, but there it is and it happens, and you're over there just, look at the quality of life that I have right now. Or it could be that you've got a situation from work and your career has been derailed, or you've had a great setback because of somebody, or somebody else may have brought financial ruin to you, or they've smeared your reputation, or they've used you and abused you in ways that no one deserves. And so I get it. I'm not about to say, well, I don't think you ought to have any strong emotion regarding that. Well, you do, and you do understandably so. But what I want us to look at is when we get this hatred that just stays on the inside of us, it becomes a cancer, so to speak, that just eats away at you and takes you to your own personal demise. I want us to see if we can get some understanding of what's going on inside individuals when they go to that place of hatred, and then let's see if we can figure out how we're going to respond best to it. And again, I want to talk on both sides of the equation, the narcissist and the recipient of it. First, let's acknowledge people can have hate because they view the other as being a threat. Now, the narcissist is threatened by you in the sense that they're afraid that you're not going to fill the role of being their supply. It's like, no, I have an agenda for you. I have to pump up my ego at your expense. And anytime you imply that you don't want to play that role, or that you don't agree that I should be in the superior position, that threatens me. And so it feeds their hatred toward you. And then your hatred in reverse toward them is that person's out to destroy your ego, and you don't like it. And again, I can get your reaction to it, but notice that it's a tit for tat, and it winds up getting into a real codependent kind of a spin. I play off of you, you play off of me, and we're both going to roll down into the ditch. Hatred then becomes a power emotion. When people go into their place of hatred, they do get a surge of power in the moment. You know, that narcissist who has this bitterness toward you, and they can come at you, whether it's with open rage or that covert, silent, just rejection toward you, where you're not going to penetrate them. It's like, nobody messes with me, and I'm going to show you exactly what that's like. And they just feel like, man, that makes me a somebody when I can think that way. It's pretty sick thinking, isn't it? But then in reverse, it leaves you feeling powerless. And so your hatred is your attempt to regain power, but all you're doing is you're playing the game that just keeps both of you feeling futile and frustrated. In addition to that, the hateful person is going to make sure that the other doesn't feel happy. You know, the narcissist doesn't want you to feel good about yourself. They don't want you to feel happy. And then when you have your hateful response back toward the narcissist, like, well, I don't want you to be happy either way. And why is that? Well, the answer is because I don't have happiness. I hate you, and I don't want you to have happiness because I don't want you to have something that I can't have. And when you put your hatred on other individuals, what you're doing is you're taking energy from the inside of yourself that could be applied to your own personal growth. Wait a minute. If that other person is hateful and I am hateful back, I don't want them to be happy. I'm focusing on the wrong person. I want to find my happiness. And I'm not going to find it as long as I'm over here camped out at Camp Hate. I don't want to do that. And so we want to make sure that that we understand that element. And in addition, hatred implies that you have zero interest in showing understanding towards the other person or the situation. Now, this is one of those situations where I get comments from folks that says, I don't want to understand that other person. I don't want to know what's going on in their life. I just hate that person. And again, I understand the impetus for the emotion, but let's recognize that there's something much larger going on here that if you can at least get your mind somewhat around, it can at least take you in a different direction. Whether you're the narcissist, and they're not going to really have much inclination for insight. If you're the narcissist, it would be nice if you could recognize, the world doesn't revolve around me, and I need to drop this notion that I'm supposed to be in the power position, that they won't think that way. But on your end, I hope that you can have an understanding that says this narcissistic or these narcissistic people in front of me are there, or they think that way for a reason. They had much wrong input that allowed them to draw the conclusions that they should be above you, and they don't understand the meaning of life. They don't understand how relationships work, even though they may think they do. And understanding and knowing that, it can become an impetus for you that says, but I want to be someone who does understand the basics of life. Hatred keeps you from being able to grow and zero in on those good things that are of a much better nature. Hatred implies that you have an empty life just on a broad level. It's like, well, I don't have anything else to give myself over to, and so I'm just going to stay parked here at this place of hate. I'm hoping that as you see that the hatred just does nothing but just make you feel worse and worse on a perpetual basis, there's a thought on the inside of it that says, there's got to be more. And I want to have something that I can build upon. And so what would that more be? And as a result, I'm hoping that there can be a mindset that says, there's a reason that I feel this way. We can rationalize why I feel this way, and it's not just a false rationalization. But if I stay stuck in this, then everyone loses, including me. Now, let's see if we can take this in a different kind of way, okay? When you feel this hatred, and again, let's reiterate, it's legitimate that you would feel some great angst. I understand that. It points toward the need to have some really strong, healthy boundaries. And when we talk about having boundaries, we're talking about you having a definition for who you want to be, and you're going to live inside your definition of yourself without others coming in and hijacking you and your way of life. And so you know who you want to be. I want to be somebody that's decent. I want to be somebody that is responsible, that treats people well. I want to be somebody that has a sense of optimism about who I can be and how I can contribute good to the world. And as a result, those boundaries can help you differentiate and distinguish yourself from that narcissistic person. And in doing so, you're not going to be inside their orbit. And that's very important for you to recognize. When you hate, in response to the narcissist hate, it means you don't have good boundaries. You're letting them dictate who you're going to be. So let's pull back and make sure that you have a well-conceived thought that says, I need to get a hold of my life, and I need to make sure that tormented soul over there is not going to be the one that's going to mandate who I'm going to be. Now, there's a little nuance that I want you to pick up on here. When you're caught up in hatred, there's a hidden idealism that's implied. Now, some of you would think, idealism? Yeah. The hater is thinking, there's got to be a much better way of doing life than this. In other words, there's an ideal that is not currently being met. What would that ideal be? And so, they're thinking of, wouldn't it be nice if we could all get along and everybody would treat me well? One of the things you'll need to address is that idealism. And I start with the notion that says this is not an ideal world. And so if I'm holding on to idealism, thinking somehow I should and could make the world suitable for me and my needs, well, it's just not going to happen. And we could give many, many illustrations of how hatred and bitterness and destruction have been a part of humanity, not just for years and decades or centuries, but for millenniums. Humanity, there's something about that that's wrong, and I could get way deep into that, but I'm not going to go into those weeds. But we're going to have to address some of the idealism and realize realistically, this is a troubled world, and I need to come to terms with that so that I don't stay stuck with the why can't you just kind of thinking, or I wish that they would quit doing this, because it's just not anchored in reality. So let's recognize the one who hates is being caught up in what we might refer to as situational reactions. The situation in front of me is not good, therefore I'm going to try to make it different, and then when it doesn't work out the way that I want, my emotions intensify, whether you're the narcissist, whether you're the one who's responding to the narcissist, and it just keeps building and building and building until nobody has any effectiveness at all. And so rather than just getting caught up in the situation of the moment, I want you to pull back and do a big picture approach. And that big picture approach is going to be anchored in the question, how do I want to conduct myself knowing that I've got circumstances in front of me that are not good, they're not what I want, but knowing that I don't want the tormented, difficult person to have the final word in my life. Who do I want to be, and how do I want to manage myself given the fact that I have these circumstances? Basically, what I'm saying is when you see other individuals acting in ways that are inappropriate and irresponsible, there's a real hypocrisy when you then say, well, I'm going to be really inappropriate and irresponsible right back at them. Be the better person. And again, I'm going to reiterate, I don't fault you for having the feelings that you have. I get it, but at the same time, there's a stubbornness inside of me that says, I am not going to let that troubled soul who's been in my life have the final word over me. It's not going to happen. Now, I do hope that you find videos such as this to be helpful, and I want it to be stimulating for your thinking. And if you find this to be helpful, if you have not done so, I'd like to invite you to go underneath and hit that subscribe button so we can keep you apprised of more videos that come along. Also, beneath the video, I do have some links to my books and some online workshops and the availability of online counseling. If you would find that to be helpful and necessary, I would hope that you would avail yourself to that. Just know that I am pleased when I'm able to be in your world through this medium as you are going on your journey, and I want to say thank you for letting me be a part of that journey with you. So that being said, I will see you next time.